We've been talking about a book called The Soul of Money by Lynn Twist. It's a great book, and money is a great issue to talk about because everybody has an issue around money. So it must be a teaching device that we're supposed to learn from here because we all have issues and tissues around money. And we've been talking about making a shift in the brain from scarcity, scared city, being afraid, being constantly in fear, and feeling like we're not enough, and we're always looking for more. No matter how much we get, more is never better, and we never can get enough, and that's just the way it is. To sufficiency, to a sense of feeling our sense of oneness, the presence of sufficiency, that all that we have, all that we need, is already present right here and now, that the entranceway to the kingdom of heaven is not somewhere off in time and space, but it exists right here and now in this present moment. We've been talking about making that shift in consciousness. And one of the best pieces of scripture that I'm going to use today for that is in our Bible, and it's the story about the fishermen. Now, when Jesus talks to us here as Christ consciousness, as an awakened being, he's speaking to people in their time who were used to fishing, but the analogy still works for all of us. Again, this is a way in which we can work with ourselves, with our own consciousness. And again, this is filled with, again, all the different examples and ways and doorways for entering into the divine. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a net. Not a net who works in the office, not a net cook. I was practicing this 30 times. I kept saying a net, a net, a net. She kept saying, what do you want? Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a net that was thrown into the sea and caught fish of every kind. And when it was full, they drew it ashore, sat down, and put the good into baskets and threw out the bad. So it will be at the end of the age. The angels will come and separate the evil from the righteous and throw them into the furnace of fire. And there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Now I know when I'm in scarcity, I do a lot of gnashing of my teeth. When I'm in the worry mode, I just can feel it. I can sometimes tell right away where my consciousness is, just how I'm holding my jaw. Worried about things, that gnashing of teeth. And in the Bible, when it mentions the fire, hellfire, it's actually called Gehenna in the Bible. It's where they took their garbage to burn it. So when it said you're going to hell, what it meant was you're going to get rid of your garbage. And you're going to burn it and get rid of it. That's what it meant when they said, you're going to go to hell. Yeah, I'm getting rid of my stuff that no longer serves me. I'm getting rid of it. So every time you hear that, think of the purifying fire of the Spirit. And so now we are taking a look at what that means for us to shift and make a shift in our own consciousness. That it's like a fisherman who had, a net, just like this. And every one of us here, by the way, is a fisherman. Jesus said, I shall make you fishers of men and women of your own consciousness. And every day, you and I, like good fisherwomen, men, we cast our net into the sea, don't we? Every day, we move through the conscious, unconscious, psychic environment that we live and move and have our being in. And we collect all kinds of thoughts, words, and deeds, and habit patterns of not only our own consciousness and our unconsciousness, but a lot of stuff from the collective unconsciousness. A lot of the stuff that other people are involved with. And so every day we draw through the net of our own consciousness. And we're told in this teaching that it is our responsibility to practice good stewardship and take what we have caught for the day and what we've been caught by for the day, what we have caught with our line, hook, line, and sinker, what I've gotten tangled up in today, you know what I'm talking about. And it's our job and responsibility to take our seat and sit down. It's got caught in my Buddha ring, isn't that interesting? And take a look at our mind's content. Take a look at, well, what did I get caught up in today? And what do I want to keep for myself? And what do I want to get rid of? The sorting out process, which goes on all the time. And no one can sort out for you but you. Because the things that you get caught up in are not necessarily the things that hook me, line and sinker. But we all get hooked and caught in things. And our mind net is constantly moving through, again, not only of our own sea of consciousness, but the collective sea of consciousness that we live in, the whole planet. Charles Fillmore called that collective sea of consciousness that we live and move and have our being in, race mind consciousness, or what the Hindus called ancient mind. And it's the stuff that you and I have been thinking ever since we ever believed ourselves and dreamed ourselves separate from God. All that gets caught up in that net too, in that basket. And so through our spiritual practices, we're called upon to take a look at what we got caught up in today. And again, select out what we'd like to keep and get rid of what we don't want. Get rid of what we'd like to just give away. This will not be done once, O ye fishermen and women and men. This has to be done over and over and over and over and over and over again. We're in the constant process of doing this. So in the book, Lynn is talking about two situations that was part of her consciousness. In this book, this particular chapter, it's called Water is Like Money, that it takes on the intention of who it flows through. So whatever your intention is with money, it gets marked and stamped by that. So when I give you money, I'm giving you my intention of the spirit of it, the energy behind my giving to you. I give to you, and my intention is stamped in that giving. So in this book, she's working in the early stages of her work with what's called the Hunger Project. And it was in the early stages of its development in the story she tells about two different ways in which she received some money. The first way was a particular food giant chain that wanted her to come in and give the spiel. And the idea was that they would share some money with him. And this particular person that was behind this CEO was a big corporation guy, and she was very nervous about going. She got her little briefcase and packed it up, and she put on her beautiful little silk dress and her high-heeled shoes and got her hair all done. And she walked into this huge glass building and went up to the penthouse, the top floor, and she met with this CEO who was sitting behind this huge desk, and she sat down and felt very teeny and very small in the presence of this very big man and big energy. And she gave the spiel about the Hunger Project and how it helps people become self-sufficient, and it's not just another handout. And he was just sitting there, tapping his fingers, like, I don't have all day, get on with it. And about 3/4 of the way into it, he turned around, opened up a desk behind him, and took out a pre-made, already made out check and slid it across the table. You know when you're getting energy slid towards you, right? She picked up the check, and it was made out to the Hunger Project for $50,000. And it was more money than they had ever received before, more money than they ever had before. In one check, this man was sliding this energy across the table. And when she looked at it, she could feel the yuckiness of the intention behind the giving of the money. That something was not right. And yet a part of her looked at it as you would and said, we'll do good with this money. We'll make it something good. And another part of her went, there's something wrong with this. And later on, what she found out was that that particular corporation, that food giant, was having problems with their image. They'd done something that was a little fishy and stunk. And so what he was doing was passing that stinky energy on to her with this little gift, this nothing to the corporate bottom line for them, and saying, here, you take this. And when she took it, something felt wrong, and she knew it. You all know that feeling, that intuition that says, yeah, I like the idea of all the money and what I can do with it. I don't like the feel of where this is coming from. And so she took the money and she stuck it in her briefcase and she zipped it up and went in the elevator and went to the next place that she was going to share at. It was a small church in Harlem, very different from where she had just been at that time. And she'd gotten wet in the rain and was soaking wet in this kind of neighborhood that she wasn't all that familiar with or comfortable with. And she went downstairs to a room filled with maybe half the amount of people that are here. And she felt silly standing there in her silk dress that was soaking wet, and her hair was all wet. And she gave a spiel about the Hunger Project to these people. And when she got done, there was just like this huge silence in the room. And I want to share this with you. It comes right from the book. And all of a sudden, from the back, there was a woman who stood up in her early 70s. She had gray hair, parted down the middle, and swept up in a tidy little bun. And when she stood up, she was tall and slender and erect and completely proud. She said, "Girl," she said, "my name is Gertrude, and I like what you said, and I like you. Now, I ain't got no checkbook, I ain't got no credit cards. To me, money is like water. For some folks, it rushes through their life like a raging river. Money comes through me more like a little trickle. But I want to pass it on in a way that makes and does the most good for most folks. I see that as my right and my responsibility, and it's also my joy. I have $50 in my purse, and I earned it from doing a white woman's wash, and I want to give it to you." And she walked down the aisle and handed her the $50. It was in $5, $10, and $1 bills. She gave her a huge hug and sat back down in her seat. And Lynn said she just couldn't stop crying and weeping. And then one by one, every single person in that room got up and came forward, giving not from their abundance, but from what they had, giving from the place of the soul, giving their intention that this was good juju, and they wanted to see this increase, and they gave all they had to give. And she said at a certain point, she couldn't hold it in her hands anymore, and she opened up her briefcase, kind of like Annette. She opened it up, and the money was piled in her briefcase, piled on top of the $50,000 check that she'd gotten, but stamped with a completely different kind of intention. For me, when I was growing up, money was given to me particularly by the source of that money, my father, as a control issue. My dad gave you money, and he expected you to do certain things for that money. And if you got more money, it was because he wanted you to do more of what he wanted you to do. His giving, his love, which came through a sense of scarcity, was a way to manipulate and control the environment around him. So that's why I got taught about money. My dad gave his money as an act of control. And we would say anything he wanted us to say to keep asking for more money. And we were caught in the same loop as well with him. And when my dad died and left my two sisters and I out of the will, for us it was a statement of, I don't love you. I don't love you. It was huge for us to deal with that, because that was the real issue. The issue was my dad not giving us love and saying in the end, I never did in the first place. And here's my last gift to you. And so we received that check with that name on it. And when we were sitting in my sister's house in Naples, Florida, after the reading of the last will and testament, all of us were completely dumbfounded at what had happened, just completely crushed by it. And we had this picture of my dad, an oil painting of my dad, a really big oil painting of my dad. And he was about 53, handsome as all get-go. He was in his prime. And he's in a suit, black suit that fit perfectly. He's leaning forward with his gold Rolex watch on his hand. And he's just got that look. And I know the look, because the older I get, the more I look like that look. Luke, you are your father. Richard, you are Alvin. There it is, it's showing up, right? Whether you like it or not, you get that genetic coding. It's there. But the spirit can make a different choice about what it wants to do in those moments. So there we were with that picture, and all of us, we passed it around, and we knew what we had to do. There was a fire actually burning in the fireplace, and we all passed the picture around. This was important for us to do this, and we literally said our last blessing, and we put the picture in the fireplace. That was the beginning of the letting go, of giving that energy over so we could begin the process of our own healing. I'd like to tell you that all we had to do was do that and it's all over now, but it took at least 4 years of dealing with not feeling loved. And every time we'd sit in meditation and go to one of these cathartic forgiveness retreats, we'd be in and there it would be again, and we'd come right back up again, and we'd have to deal with it again and again. But each time you deal with it, each time you bring the energy in and you look at it again, the fish gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Till at some point, it's just a minnow, and it passes right through. And that's when you know you've made your awakening. from this being a call for love or a rejection of that love. And I choose to see it now as a call for love and return that love. And that love then returns to me, and I now can share that love with other people.